What is going on, guys, gals, non-binary pals? It's your boy Artisan Kane coming at you with our first TPL Season 3 video. As you can see, we got a little upgrade. I got a camera now, so hopefully I can see me molding when I'm losing games. I can talk a little bit about my thought process during the games, all that kind of good stuff, as well as team preview breakdowns, kind of like we're doing now. So this is the Bad Lombres version 3.0. This is our third season in the TPL. We started, obviously in season one, and this is our third season in this league. The TPL had a very interesting transition between season two and season three with the process that we had, including some of the keeper stuff, free agency. I won't go into too much of the details. I kind of talk a little bit about the pieces that we kept from season two, as well as what we added in the off season and what we added in last week's draft. So as you can see here, kind of our main squad that we're going with, right? Hydreigon, Aegislash, Alchemy, Durant, Buzzwole, Tentacruel, Tangela, and Barbaracle. So that's the squad we're rolling with. We got an extra slot this season. We got that eighth roster slot. Kind of gives us a little bit more freedom with what we want to do week to week. It also makes things a little bit more unpredictable for both my team and then obviously in trying to predict the opponent's team. Makes things a little bit more unpredictable. So more testing that needs to be done on our part. More damage calcs and all that kind of stuff done between battles. So right now we'll do our first video of kind of breaking down the team we got. And here we go. So first up is Zagreus, our Aegislash. Aegislash we kept from last season. As you know, if you followed us last season, I kind of got bored with Dracovish. Obviously, Dracovish is very strong, very, very powerful in the metagame, but I kind of got bored with it. So I traded Brooks, coach of Nuzleafs, and I traded him for Aegislash. And Aegislash is so fun to use. So it only costs $30 to retain Aegislash, and by $30 it's basically we had a total pot of $100, and with that we kind of divided up what we were allowed to keep, mainly based on like KD ratios and stuff like that. I think is what the commish split it up on. So some things like Aegislash, which we didn't get that many kills with this past season, and definitely season one. Brooks didn't get too many kills with it either, so it had a very low price to retain. So I definitely had to keep it. Obviously, Steel Ghost, fantastic typing. I absolutely love the fact that it's got stuff like Shadow Sneak, and then obviously here you see those two forms, right? That signature stance change ability allows Aegislash to be a threat, right? You get that 140 base defense, special defense when you're in shield form, and when you're in blade form, you get the 140 in attack and special attack. Now, because it's very balanced in those stats, that allows us to have a lot of flexibility. We can run sword stance sets to hit really hard. We can have choice spec sets, fire off flash cannons and shadow balls, stuff like that. So there's a lot that you can do with Aegislash. That's probably the most important reason for me holding on to this mod, besides its awesome typing and resisting a ton of things. I absolutely love steel types and absolutely love ghost types, and these two are fantastic in Aegislash. He takes real advantage of being able to do what he does. Click King Shield when the opponent's hitting you and dropping their attack. Stuff like that is just so fun. Obviously, this is, being a Dynamax league, Aegislash can get out of control with some of these boosts that it can get, and really that's kind of what we want to take advantage of here with Zagreus in this season. Next up, we've got Nyx, our Hydreigon. Hydreigon's another returning member from Season 2. I actually traded for Hydreigon over in Season 1. Also traded Brooks. Interestingly, I traded Brooks for Hydreigon in that first season. So now we have Dark Dragon. So we're kind of starting to complete that Steel Dragon Fairy core, right? So that's kind of my thought process here too. Also, being that returning veteran, it did cost to retain. So the $70 that we had remaining, we used to retain Hydreigon. Obviously, Hydreigon, set up sweeper, all that kind of stuff, a whole bunch of different things it can do. It was going to cost a lot to retain it, but I think that Hydreigon is definitely one of the best mons in this format, if not the game in general. Yeah, you have that 4 times weakness to Fairy, but I think I well rounded out this team to make sure that that's not too much of an issue. So that $70 I think was really well spent for Hydreigon. Um, Obviously, looking at Hydreigon stats here for Nyx, super high special attack, right? Nasty plot sets, sub nasty plot sets. It's got access to roost, so it can recover things like that. But the other thing I like about Hydreigon too is that it's also got a really high attack stat. So week to week, if I want to change it up and I want to be a little bit more unpredictable, I can run a set where I'm running Dragon Dance and I'm running, things that'll hit hard, like Outrage or something like that, if the opponent doesn't have any Fairy Mons or something. So again, what I value here in Draft League especially is the unpredictability factor, and I think Hydreigon is a very good example of that also. Another thing I like about a lot of Dragon Mons too is that it gets a wide range of type moves, from Surf to Flamethrower, all that stuff, even electric moves in Charge Beam and Shockwave. Like, there's so much you can do with it, and that's what I really, really value in the draft format and in mons like Hydreigon. Next up, we got Dionysus or Dionysis, our Tentacruel. Another returning veteran. It cost us our third round pick to retain Tentacruel. But I do think Tentacruel probably would have gone in the first couple rounds, probably in round two. So I think there's value in being able to keep Tentacruel. Obviously, huge, huge utility mod, right? You've got your super high special defense, but you've also got really high speed. So, Tentacruel can be, just your T spike setter or your spinner, that kind of thing. But Tentacruel can also do some work. Um, that high speed catches a lot of people off guard, and a waterfall or two after like a swords dance or something like that. That can put Tentacruel in a good position. The water poison typing is really really fun, especially being able to soak up the opponent's T spikes if they lay any down, etc., etc. But I really like this mon, especially with clear body, all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot that this mon can do, and like I said, this is kind of our utility mon, right? Week to week it can be super different. It can be a hard hitter. It can be your utility setting up and taking down hazards. All that kind of stuff. I think that's how we're going to use Tentacruel going forward, and that's basically how I used it last season. So, it's probably not a mon that's going to be getting a ton of kills, but it's a mon that really has a pivotal role in the team, getting, taking care of the rest of the mons. Next up, we've got Tangela Medusa. So, we have a free agent. This is our first free agent addition in the off season. So we had to trade some different things off. So, for example, I traded off my second round pick to Carolina, to Marcus, and in exchange, I got $50. So I went from having $100. I sold, or I kept Hydreigon and Aegislash, which basically negated that $100. To I sold my second round pick for the $50, and I was able to get some of these free agent acquisitions. So one of them is Medusa. Medusa, I was able to get with $20 from a sign-in trade from Cincinnati, coached by Dylan. And one of the best things I love about this mod is, first of all, grass has a million weaknesses, right? But it's got a very, very interesting resistance in ground. And I wanted to make sure I had a strong ground resist that had a very high defenses. And that is exactly what Tangela does. Tangela's got that base 115 defense. Throw the Eviolite on there, and that thing is just a tank. Even things like Dracovish can't hit this hard. It can't, even with a band or anything like that. Medusa is going to be such that really powerful wall there. Also, with that access to the regen, this thing can be so annoying. I really wanted Tangrowth I think Tangrowth is fantastic, but I think Tangela is going to play this role fantastically for our team. Um, Leech Seed, things like that. You know, just being that annoying mon, coming in and out to do that regen stuff. There's a lot that this mon can do to be a hassle to the opponent team. Also, just like the last mon, just like Dionysis, you know, being able to do some status stuff. Obviously, whether it's poison or sleep powder, you know, stun spore, all that kind of stuff gives me a lot of flexibility week to week to you know, decide what I want to do for the opponent. Our next free agent addition here is Aphrodite, our Alchemy. So Alchemy we got from Minnesota, another sign and trade deal for 25 bucks. So again, that's kind of that in that 25 bucks that I got for that first round pick or that second round pick from Marcus. Now we complete our Steel Dragon Fairy Core with Alchemy. Obviously, fairies are really hard to come by, especially ones with decent stats that make them more usable. And I really like Alchemy's role in this team. It's very defensive, but with a couple of Calm Minds or something, this thing just gets out of control. I should be mentioned that because we're a Dynamax league, we have access to Gigantamax Alchemy, and Gmax Alchemy's Gmax Finale actually heals Alchemy 1/6. So if we're at a point where we can get, you know, one or two Calm Minds and we can Dynamax, we can probably be taking some crazy hits and just dish it right back out to the opponent and heal ourselves up in the process. So there's some really cool sets with Alchemy that we can run. That obviously I don't want to go into too much detail and give away many of the secrets of what I'm thinking of doing this season, but definitely Gmax Alchemy TPL's got to be on notice for what I want to try to do with this thing going forward. Next up, we've got Durant, which I won on a signing war, or should I say a bidding war, between a couple other coaches that were trying to sign Durant in this offseason. So Artemis does a lot for us in being a big threat, especially in Dynamax. Life Orb Hustle is pretty common in any format that has Dynamax at this point, and Durant is no exception. I used Durant in SQL Season 1 when I participated in that doubles format, and that's my premier Dynamaxer. I'm really familiar with Durant because I've already used it in that last season. So I know what this mon is capable of. It's got a lot of different things in its move pool that can make it very, very effective, especially in Dynamax. Obviously, Hustle kind of is questionable outside of Dynamax because some of these games I know are going to be very tight, and they're going to be, you know, one turn can win or lose you a game, and I think that the Hustle advantage is kind of outweighs that negativity of the that 80%. Obviously, Durant has other stuff in its arsenal to be able to balance out some of the accuracy stuff. Um, it's also got a bunch of different typing options. Even though it is Bug Steel, it gets ground moves, it gets rock moves, it gets electric moves in its arsenal. It even gets a flying move in its arsenal. So all those kind of things can really work to make Durant a really heavy hitter and can make this mon a Dynamax sweeper. And I think it puts a lot of extra stress on the opponent when they're already thinking about mons like Hydreigon. They're already thinking about, you know, Aegis Slash and trying to deal with those mons. And then they also have to think about Durant. Now, obviously, Durant does have that 4 times weakness to fire, right? And its special defense is nothing to be right home about. So, you know, one little flamethrower from just about anything means that, you know, Durant's not lasting. But hopefully we can play well enough to put ourselves in a position where we're not risking that kind of a position, and allows Durant to do what he needs to do and do some big hole punching to the opponents. Next up is our first draft selection. So in the draft, because of how we placed last season, making the playoffs and everything, we were the 22nd overall pick. Now, thinking about the draft beforehand, I really didn't even consider this mon. I thought about it a little bit, but I figured this mon would be going in the top 10, top 15. I didn't think it would drop all the way to 22. My original thoughts were, some of the Kanto birds that I think everyone kind of thought were going to be in the first 10, Zapdos, Moltres. I was playing around with Jirachi a lot too. But once I got Durant and I already had that other Steel Mon, I really didn't want to have another Steel type. Not that Jirachi wouldn't have been good on the team, but I couldn't let this Mon go by. And again, we have another Mon that's got a 4 times weakness. In this time, it's to flying. But again, we just have to be smart about playing around it, understanding what we can and can't do with Buzzwole. So Hades is not able to Dynamax because of the rules of the league. Um, Legendaries and Mythicals have been allowed this season for TPL, but with the caveat that they cannot Dynamax. So we have to be aware of that. Um, Buzzwole obviously hits like a truck. It's very, very difficult to counter if, once those beast boosts get rolling, all that kind of stuff, right? But we can't put ourselves in a position where the opponent can switch in a Mon, immediately Dynamax, and destroy us. So we have to be aware of that. We have to be cautious with our coming in and out, all our switching or pivoting, that kind of stuff. It sucks that, this Mon doesn't get, U-turn. But I think with those, I mean, if you just look at those first three, the HP, attack, and defense, right? This thing is a monster. This thing is a monster. Throw on a bulk up, or you throw on one of those beast boosts after you hit a drain punch or whatever. This thing can be a real force to deal with. And then throw on the what's it called? The roost. Roost. You have that recovery in roost, and this thing can be real pain in the butt to deal with for the opponent. Again, this is another mon that's got really low special defense, so we have to be aware of that. But we do have other pieces in the team to help make up for that. So again, another thing with this season has kind of been to get a little bit more balance, right? So we've got mons like Buzzwole and Tangela that maybe don't have the greatest special defense but have higher defenses, but they're kind of balanced out by mons like Tentacruel and Alchemy that have very high special defenses. So obviously typing does matter a lot, and it's going to matter in those damage calculations, doing it week to week, seeing what can take what kind of damage depending on move spreads and everything, or EV spreads and everything like that, move pools. So week to week, we are going to be doing a lot of calcs and seeing what we're going to bring each week. But that's something to consider here with Buzzwole, is the fact that we can't Dynamax. And finally, we have Poseidon. So Poseidon was picked in round 5. Obviously, I said that we gave up our 2nd round pick for that money. Our 3rd round pick was for Tentacruel. Our 4th round pick we actually gave up in exchange for enough cash to be able to keep Durant. And the rest of the picks really didn't matter after 5th round, because our rosters are limited to 8 anyway. So the other 2 mons that I picked up, Combuskin and Cramorant, they weren't going to be able to stay on the team to compete for that 8 slot anyway. So I decided to stick with Barbaracle. So Poseidon here is just another mon, super high attack, can do a lot of different things with the tough claws that it has. It can hit pretty hard. It's got that shell smash that is so brutal to deal with. From turn 1, if the opponent's not ready for it, it can just start going on a tear. Throw in the fact that it can Dynamax and everything, and it can just snowball out of control. So that's kind of what we're going with Poseidon. Now, in this last slot, I really wasn't sure too much of what I wanted to do. And quite honestly, this probably could change here in a couple weeks. I might be picking something else up, or making a different trade. Or, maybe Alchemy's not around, or Tangela's not around, and we start moving stuff around. Because that's another thing about this league, is that there tends to be a good amount of transactions throughout the season, especially as we get towards the tail end of the season, when the trade deadline closes, and there's kind of already an idea of who the playoff teams are. So, I have no problem with making different transactions, but Barbaracle does give us another heavy hitter, gives us another Mon that can really hit hard inside of Dynamax and outside of Dynamax with that Shell Smash, with the waterfall and stone edges that are stab moves and all that kind of good stuff. Um, and that's really all I got to say about the team. So just looking at it here real quick, um, we've got a really tough schedule ahead. Our division is extremely difficult. Um, Lincoln, the coach of the Jamaican Jolteons, and I have played each other a bunch of times, and it is never an easy battle. He is always very tough to deal with. He is always a very defensively minded coach, so he makes you earn those KOs. He's not going to give you anything for free. So knowing each other a little bit more now, we kind of know what the other person might be thinking a little bit more. So knowing that I got to play the Jamaican Jolteons a couple times this season too, is definitely going to be tough. That's definitely not two easy games on the schedule. And then I throw in Q, my one of my best friends and coach of the amazing Alakazams. Um, I was a freaking best man at this guy's wedding. He has come such a long way in such a short time to become a coach that is a big threat in this league. His first season in the league, he took over a team and really wasn't too sure of what he was doing. And last season, he was one of the biggest threats in the league. He built his roster extremely well, and he knows how to use those mons. Obviously, with any team that's got Indeedee and Alakazam, is going to be a very big threat to deal with. But he has so many supporting pieces around it that it's very tough. So it's another couple games that are going to be tough. And then we've got the Alolan Strikers in Kai, and Kai has such a crazy roster. Looking at Ryan's video of the team breakdown, it had me scratching my head of how the heck did they get this team? They've got Barraskewda, and they've got Ferrothorn, and they've got Galarian Moltres. They have so many threats that you see on a standard OU team that makes it seem like that's going to be another tough schedule. So I have to play each of those coaches twice. So those are going to be very tough games. Definitely games on the schedule that you want to circle. And then here on the outside, I've got all my other games. So I got to play Brooks again. I got to play the season 1 champion, Delphin, the coach of the Red Spark, Vikavolt. There's a couple of rookies I got to play in Buckingham and Lilypool, Atlanta, and Minnesota that, again, because this is their first season, there's that huge unpredictability factor. I don't know what their tendencies are. I don't know what they're thinking of, week to week. It'll be. I'm so excited for some of these matches. Then I've got Bill and Matt, coach of Florida, Mario, coach of the College Station Good Bulls. Who Mario, I think I've played like 4 times now, and then San Isidro. Like some of these coaches that have been around and that we've played each other a few times now. That none of these matches are going to be easy. And I think that this season is going to be so fun. And really, that's kind of my goal for this season, is just to have fun. I'm not really too worried about trying to make playoffs or anything. I'm going to try to do it a little bit less stressed, should I say. I just want to bring fun sets, and I want to have a good time in these matchups. If it means we make playoffs, great. If not, that's fine. I just want to continue to be, doing a little bit of content making, but really just the funnest part for me is not just the execution, but it's the preparation process. I love being able to assemble teams, do all those damage calcs, figure out what I want to bring week to week, and I think that this season is going to be so fun, especially with this introduction of the legendary mons and mythical mons. It just brings so much more of that unpredictability factor. So again, I'm super excited to get into season 3 of the TPL here, and I thank y'all for watching, and I hope you watch us here as we go into season 3.